Welcome to our briefing this morning. We're delighted to have the Minister of State for Business, Employment and Retail, Damien English, with us here today to discuss how our businesses in County Wexford can be supported in the months ahead. We are also joined by CEO of Retail Excellence Ireland, Mr. Duncan Graham, who will give an overview of retail over the past year and what we can expect for the months ahead. Thank you to all our members and businesses across County Wexford for joining this morning. Great to see you all here. And to our TD, Johnny Myton, and Councillors Maura Bell and Dirk Harty, who are also in attendance. So before I pass it over to the President of County Wexford Chamber, Willie Fitzharris, for a quick welcome message, I would like to just mention some house rules and the format for today. So just to let you know, this session is being recorded, and once everyone is okay with that, as some of our members could not make this morning. The session will last about an hour, and the format will be that the Minister will take the floor firstly in a few minutes to address you all, and then Duncan Graham will give a short presentation followed by Q&As for the final half an hour. We do have some questions already submitted to the Minister, so we will go through those firstly. If you do have any questions you want to ask, I would ask you kindly to just write it into the chat box. Also, if you would like to ask it yourself, please state, or no problem if you'd like me to ask it on your behalf. Just please give your preference if you'd like me to give you the floor. We'll have plenty of time for questions. In the meantime, if you could all please keep your microphones on mute, that would be greatly appreciated. And right now, I would like to hand it over to Mr. Willie Fitzharris, President of County Wexford Chamber. Thanks, Willie.
Thanks, Emma. First of all, I want to thank Emma and our team for putting this webinar together. There's a bit of work behind the scenes, and I want to thank Minister English and Duncan Graham for taking up the invite. I think it's important for our membership. I think this is one of my first webinars. I became president back about a year and a half ago, more or less at the inception of the County Wexford Chamber of Commerce, which brought Gorey, New Ross and Wexford together. Now, I know I needn't tell you, it's been a challenging time, everyone here, I would say, and I really appreciate the number of members here today, and maybe non-members. It doesn't matter, you're all in business and we're out there to help you. And I suppose one message I would like to get across: use the services of the Chamber of Commerce. We're there to serve you. We're made up of a board of 15. We have a few vacancies, so if anybody have any aspirations to come along and join the board of any our committees in the various districts, don't be slow to pick up the phone and ring Emma or myself or whatever. We need representation from all areas and all businesses, all business sectors. We're trying to serve all business sectors. It doesn't matter whether it's a bicycle repair shop or massive, we have Integer there with around 900 employees. We can serve, we can work together, I think, and that's my main message is, if we don't work together, we're off to a bad start. I'm in business myself for the last 40 years, I'd say, and I can assure you it hasn't got easier. And I'm looking forward to Minister English answering a few questions there, because I don't envy your task, and I'd have to say I really appreciate Minister English and Duncan Graham, and I'd say every business person here is under pressure, so they're terrible times. So let's help each other, and I think we will get through this. There's no doubt whatsoever. But let's work together. And my door is always open. Emma's door is always open, and we will get out, please God, now when things open up, and we will have open meetings in various districts. And what we want to know is what we can do for you. And I suppose that's what we're there. That's our job, and that's the task we've taken on. So again, welcome our guests and all our members. Now I'll hand it over to Minister English to answer all our questions. Thanks.
Formally, I said, again, Willie, thanks for having me, Mr. President. and all the team at Chamber of Commerce and them and all the gang for all their efforts organising. Again, just to formally apologise for having to change the timing last week. And I'm conscious that I'm glad we got a chance to reschedule quite quickly, get a chance to engage. And I'm delighted that Duncan is online today as well, because myself and Duncan have a lot of engagement where he's constantly pushing the case for the retail sector and the community well before COVID, but certainly during COVID and beyond it as well. So it's important that Retail Excellence Ireland are here today as well, and I have a chance to engage more. Chair, or Mr. President, I'm conscious that we've quite a good few members online today. I want to thank everybody for joining and for your time. And I'm hopeful that we could engage possibly physically in the future as well, and be down in Wexford. I would be down there quite a bit before my previous role in the Department of Housing with our offices there. But certainly, I'm looking forward to have regular engagement with the chambers, if that's okay with yourselves. Whenever there's issues you want to tease through, because it's a great value to us to get feedback. Luckily for us during COVID and in normal times as well, we've great engagement through the retail forum and through other forums here, which are representative bodies, which is the Chambers of Ireland, the like of Duncan Graham there through Excellence, Retail Excellence Ireland, and all the other different groups as well come together with us quite regularly. And that does two things: it gives us great feedback, keeps us on our toes, and puts us on a bit of pressure as well, which is no harm. But also it's a chance to tease through some of the policy initiatives we're doing. And a lot of the changes we make to the various schemes are in conjunction with your representative bodies and that feedback we're getting. And it's important that we base on that as well. So hopefully we can keep it in regular engagement, and it won't always be on Zoom. But I'm glad really to see after 40 years in business that you're now on Zoom and working away online, because it shows that the opportunities are out there for us all. A couple of issues just to touch on. Again, I'm conscious that there's quite a number of businesses on today, but thankfully a lot of businesses are probably busy today because they've reopened in the last few days, which is great. And I'm glad to see that. I think with some very, very positive feedback from around the country, but certainly I think RTE were down with yourselves in Wexford there, and there's very positive vibes coming back. So there's been a successful reopening for retail anyway, and other businesses this week. But I'm conscious that there's still a number of businesses who aren't open yet or are still waiting for dates. So I think that the importance for the retail sector, which I think has been proven over the last couple of months, you've been very patient and resilient in being allowed and wait for reopening. Many of you have found ways to reach your customers by pivoting, going online and through other enterprising methods as well. In the last week, we've seen click and collect going extremely well, along with the shopping by appointment. But the retail sector has really responded to what has been asked by government. But that's come at a huge price, and I recognise that. And I want to compliment all those in the business community who played their part to suppress the virus this year, and certainly in the other stages during 2020 as well. And I know it's been very difficult, but I think it means we're now in a strong position to see the reopening we've had during the month of May, and to build on that in June, where we can get the rest of businesses open, certainly in the hospitality sector and into the leisure sector as well, and the amenities. There's a lot there still waiting to be open, and that's the aim. If everything goes well and we all play our part, which we have been doing, follow the protocols that were relaunched last week as well, we should be in a good place to get our colleagues in other businesses reopened in the very near future, and we can continue with this recovery phase, which we're now in. So again, going to build on the positivity as much as we possibly can. I will touch in on mainly on retail matters, Willie, if that's okay, but we can answer questions on other parts as well. But before I go there, because I'm conscious, Duncan and many others, but certainly the Chambers of Ireland on your behalf, will be pushing and advocating for us to make changes to the Small Business Assistance Scheme, or SBAS as we call it, for COVID. And that scheme, we had a phase of that for January, February, March, and phase 2 was announced and cleared by the Cabinet yesterday, which will reopen now. And we're making some changes there to that scheme based on your own feedback. There's quite a number of businesses who don't pay rates, but it might operate from the back of the house, or operate in the back shed, or operate from a premises that's not rated. So and that could be someone like a travel counsellor, it could be somebody in a wedding planning business, photographers, and many others as well. So the scheme has changed now to allow all of them apply for that 4,000 grant for this quarter as well, which is an important change, and that's on photo feedback as well. And also, yes, it was confirmed that the Micro Enterprise Assistance Scheme, which is run by the LEOs, which is for those other companies that don't qualify for CRIS or SBAS or CBAS as we call it, they can then apply for a grant of up to €1,000 again towards helping the cost. So again, all those schemes that were reaffirmed yesterday, and all the other ones which we'll probably tease through later on, the CRIS, the wage subsidy, the restart grant, and all of them. As I've said on many occasions before, we recognise as a government, they don't go the whole way to replacing all your costs and all your lost turnover. They're there to assist you to pay some of the bills, some of the costs, and try and help as many businesses as possible survive till you got to this reopening phase. And that's the hope, that many of you can reopen now, and will over time be able to recover your debts and continue in trading. But we recognise that for many sectors, there will need to be ongoing support. And that's something we can touch on a bit more today. So on that front, the National Economic Recovery Plan will be published later this month. It's on schedule before the end of May. The Taoiseach, the Taoiseach, Minister Raymond Ryan will lead off on that. But it's a whole of government approach with a National Economic Recovery Plan setting out what we'll be doing in each sector for the next 2 or 3 years and beyond that. And so watch out for that coming in a couple of weeks. Some of the questions today will feed into that. Some of your feedback, I'll feed into it as well. But in that, you'll hear confirmation of some of the existing schemes continuing and then some new interventions as well. And we're very conscious that we can't fully get a picture of what's going to happen in the next couple of months in terms of what businesses can reopen and stay open and survive, or what businesses will be in financial trouble as the year moves on. So we want to be able to respond to that in different ways, and the different sectors will need assistance at different times over the years ahead, and we hope to be able in a position to be there with you on that journey. And because, as Pascal Donoghue said on a few occasions, Michael McGrath, Taoiseach Micheál Martin, Neil Varadkar have said on many occasions, and myself, this will be a jobs-led recovery. And I want to be very clear to members of Chamber of Commerce. If we want a jobs-led recovery, that means we need businesses like yourselves who are creating those jobs and retaining those jobs and bringing people back to work as well. So we'll be very much supporting you in the months and weeks ahead, building on the supports over the last year, which have, again, your own contributions, taxpayers' money, repackaged and back out to in supports, badly needed, and we're of assistance, and we'll build on that in the future as well. Another issue that was launched last week, the Taoiseach launched the updated Back to Work Safety Protocol. I think most members at this stage would have probably had a quick read through that. It does update around antigen testing, which is possible for businesses of all sizes, as well as updated guidance and ventilation. But the big part of that, though, is just a reminder for us all to follow the protocols, and for our customers as well to follow the advice and make your job easy, trying to mind them and mind your staff as well. So it's back to the basics about the social distancing, washing the hands, using the sanitizer, face coverings, and all that, which I know can be difficult. So in that protocol, it's all there. And I would say that document is drawn up together by the business community like yourselves, through your representative bodies, along with the unions. And it is a document that responsibility lies with both employer and employee to fully protect ourselves from the virus and to prevent the spread of it as well. But I think it gives good cover to businesses as well to read that and to follow the advice and guidance in that as well. Many of you have, I know that, and have been involved in training with your employees as well. But it's important that we'll keep doing that too, because if we can protect and stop the spread of the virus, it means we can get the other businesses reopened as well, and that we can stay open. In short, because of the vaccination plans and rollout, which are now hitting all the targets or meant to hit and on schedule, which I'll come back to in a second, that means that this, we are in a very positive place to make sure we're not going back to a lockdown and no other restrictions. We're opening up in a very positive way because we can see the benefits from those who had the vaccine, and also we can see the number beginning to increase every week of getting it as well. So we're in a positive place, and that should have a knock-on confidence builder for your customers as well, because we know there is quite a lot of pent-up demand there, and if the confidence is there, they'll spend, and they'll spend in their own shops as well. So a lot of opportunities if we can get it through as well. Willie, one of the questions that was asked was around about the restructuring from SMEs who might need assistance to restructure but reckon they can survive as well. So the legislation that's been talked about for the last couple of months and well advocated by a lot of your representative bodies was new legislation around an examinative process for smaller businesses, a less costly and more straightforward one. So Robert Try, the minister who works with me here in this department, the two of us work along with the Taoiseach Neil Varadkar, he took the lead on this and Cabinet approved it last week for a small and micro business administrative rescue process. And the aim is to have that in place before the summer, so before the summer recess. So that should be up and ready by July. And that will be of assistance to smaller businesses who are under pressure to restructure, but have a survival opportunity if they get time and space and into a process to manage their business out of this as well. So that will be in place, all going well by July. I get the impression from talking to all our colleagues across party that there is support for that. Of course, there will be tweaks and changes to make as we go through the various stages in the Dáil, but the general support is for the bill to be there. And in fairness to all the various parties, all the business supports have been supported by all political parties. I'm constantly with councillors and TDs online today, and it's important to recognise that everyone's playing their part in support of businesses as well. Touching back on some of the retail, again, we know it's a very difficult year. I think a key issue for us though is to get through COVID and plan for the future. I think because of Brexit and because of COVID, you probably couldn't have had a more complicated year in terms of in the retail sector, or anyone trying to trade and bring in imports or exporting as well. But a lot of businesses have found ways through that. We still don't know the full outcome of Brexit and the full difficulties of it. We would engage quite a lot up here to our own department with different business community, and the fallout is still happening week to week and different situations pop up that we have to tease out. But it is a concern when you look at the difference in the trade, looking back over January and February. I haven't seen March figures yet. A big drop in UK trade coming in here in terms of imports, nearly to the tune of 50% in some cases. But also our exports into the UK are down by 10-15%. Now, I know I'm conscious that we've worked a lot with the business community over the last 4 or 5 years to take on other markets beyond the UK, and hopefully we're replacing that business. But there is the effects of Brexit there. It has complicated a lot of you guys trying to bring in products as well in your supply chains. But we will continue to work through with you on that as well as the various complications come up. But please, I would say to anybody with difficulty, engage with our agencies or engage directly with myself in the department here, and we'll try and work through your problems, because our agencies, be it agriculture, be it health, be it revenue, are all quite responsive to the issues that have been brought to our floor here, our table, and we try to work through them with them as well. But it does cause difficulties. We want to work through that with you as well. I think the one positive we've seen out of COVID was the amount of businesses who have managed to go online or to reach their customers in a new way. And that to me, that's a positive, because it's a conversation we've been having for years, and Duncan and many others would have warned that we needed to be able to go online. And I'm very clear on this. The future of retail is a combination of bricks and mortar on our high street in a much better way, by all of us supporting development of that high street, development of the public realm, dealing with the dereliction, and making our towns and villages a much more attractive place to trade in, invest in, and to enhance that shopping experience. But to complement that, and for businesses to really achieve economies of scale and to increase their sales, I think the majority in the retail sector are going to have a really, really strong online presence. And the big challenge for us will be to work with you on that through the various schemes, be that the Enterprise Ireland Retail Scheme, which is a voucher, a grant towards a spend of €50,000 to develop your existing online presence, to be able to reach more customers throughout the country, and to go beyond that, to internationalise as well. But also, and that scheme was reopened again last week, it has opened another round of it, and hopefully if there's a strong demand for that, which I expect there will, we'll open a second round of that in the autumn as well. Building on the success of that scheme last year, which was in each time we'd have over 300 or 400 applications for each round, and 2 or 3 other companies coming through, developing their online presence. The online trading voucher, which is run by the Leos on behalf of this department, over 13,000 companies availed that last year and took their business online as a first attempt of the first start there. And we can build on that with new offerings. We're trying to find a new scheme there to cater for companies who are online who've used that voucher, but they also want to expand their business but might not qualify for Enterprise Ireland because they're under 10 employees. That's something I'll be working on in the months ahead and bringing out in conjunction with our represented bodies as well. And that's to try to, again, assist people with that e-commerce agenda, your digitalization agenda, but transforming your business, be a retailer or not, and being able to reach online customers as well. And to me, it's quite straightforward where the win is here. If 70% of the Irish customers are spending their money overseas online, that's what we have to win back, first of all. And there's massive opportunity for anybody to win back that trade. That's number one. And then number two, of course, when you win back our own Irish customers, it's then to go and take on customers and win market share in other countries as well, because we have the products, we have the services, and we have the companies that can do it. It's just to enable you to do it as well with confidence and to point you in the right direction through support, advice, mentoring, and grants as well. But that to me is where the real opportunity is. That will involve a major upskilling agenda with your existing staff and new staff that are committed to the system as well to help you manage all the new technologies and new opportunities there. But it's one we have to crack. We've talked about it for a long time. Many champions in the retail sector have been leading the way, but we need all our businesses to go that way too, in combination with the bricks and mortar. And we need to encourage that investment, which we will try and do to work with on that as well. But digital capability is where it's at. And that's something that I'm very clear on for the future with. Chair, I'm conscious my time is nearly up, so I'll touch on 2 or 3 more things. Again, retail community have said to me, what's the future like? To me, I'd be very optimistic about this, and I've just touched on the reasons why there. But apart from the online trade, even our population growing, and we've seen a lot of movement of people because of COVID and remote working and the opportunities that brings up for places like Wexford, for many of those thousands who might have worked up here in the city to be back home living in Wexford, spending their money locally. That's where the opportunity is. But on top of that, we know there'll be an extra 1 million people living in this country over the next 17 or 18 years. And again, they're customers that need to be won over, secured, and encouraged to spend their money locally. All our research would show us here that Irish customers want to shop local, and they do look local first. But we have to be able to respond to that and provide them with the service they need and the online service they need. We'll sponsor a lot of campaigns. The one at Christmas was successfully run through the Leos in support of all the chambers around look local. And again, that needs to be the message again. And you'll hear all of us talking quite often about the need to look local and support local businesses, and that should be our mantra. But our customers do want that. So it's if we all work together, we'll be able to provide them the service they want. The last thing I would say, really, might be of interest to you, the Taoiseach set up an SME task force here last autumn, and on that we brought 40 entrepreneurs around the virtual table here to discuss the needs and wants of the SME community looking into the years ahead to secure the growth and to future-proof the SME sector of this country. That task force then engaged with a couple of hundred other entrepreneurs and brought forward to us, in conjunction with myself and Robert Try and Leo Bradker, an action plan for the SME community, covering a whole range of issues that need to be dealt with to strengthen the hand of SMEs in Ireland. We're working through that plan now with an implementation body. I encourage anyone to take a quick look at it, some of the actions there, and we can engage at later occasions in some of those initiatives as well. But they are around digitalisation, access to finance, low-cost finance, helping companies go online, helping companies internationalise, the greening agenda and the opportunities there. While we know there's challenges, a lot of opportunities as well, and there's various funds to help you draw that down as well. Another key aspect was around about the ongoing quest for talent and the competition within our counties, within the various company sizes to win that talent and to secure them. And the big ask was for a greater engagement with our SME community, with a lot of our large multinationals, and to strengthen that relationship, that we can do business together, but also learn from each other. And if we can plug in the SMEs in a greater way to the larger companies, that would help them develop opportunities abroad too. So that's kind of some of the focus there, that we're working on many other issues. I'm sorry, slightly over the time. Happy to engage with some of the questions really afterwards as well. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Minister. And I think everyone was really interested in what you had to say as you gave a great overview. And thank you for touching on the questions that were submitted to you in advance. Yesterday's announcement was certainly welcomed by County Wexford Chamber, and look, we can touch on this again later. But I will now pass the floor to Duncan Graham before we begin our question and answer session. So thanks, Duncan.
Thank you, Emma. I'll just pull my screen up and you can tell me whether you can see this. Can you see that, Emma?
Perfect, yeah, you can see that.
Okay, let me just hold on 1 second. Right. Okay, I've only got just a few slides just to run through with you. So thank you, first off, thank you, Mr. President, thank you, Minister, thank you, Emma. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I've literally got about 10 slides that I'm going to run through fairly quickly. Clearly, it has been a generational moment in retail. And just to give you a little bit of my background, whilst I might have the wrong accent, I've certainly lived here a long time, 24 years at this point, and most of my retail career has been with brands like Marks and Spencer, Brown Thomas, Specsavers, and so on. So, and I joined Retail Excellence about a year ago now. Interesting time to join a new retail organisation at the start of a pandemic, but it's been a roller coaster ride. I was told when I joined that we were out of COVID and we could see full steam ahead. And then obviously we had the lockdown in October and obviously the latest one that we're just coming out of back in December. Anyway, listen, just to sort of set the scene, I guess first thing to say is it's great to be back, right? We had a little bit of this last week with as the ministers just pointed out, we had the opening of Click and Collect and we had the opening of appointment shopping as well as outdoor retail. And certainly, you know, there's very much pent up demand out there from consumers. You know, we saw 275,000 appointments being made in pennies last week alone. And actually the reality of that is it probably took a little bit of the heat out of the start of this week. Certainly trade, certainly around Dublin was fairly brisk on Monday, particularly in things like the shopping centres, not so much in the city centre. And I suspect it was also very brisk down in Wexford. Be interested to pick up your points on that. And I think things will build as the week goes on. What was very evident was that you know, footfall was coming back, but in most cases it was the conversion rates and it was the average transaction value. You know, people were going into shops early part of this week on a mission, and you know, they're spending, and certainly, you know, it is still very different from where it was, you know, 18 months, 2 years ago, in that we are engaging with customers, wearing face coverings, doing all the normal COVID protocols that retail has been extremely conscious of and backing throughout all of this. So until those are lifted, it's going to be different, but it's great to be back. So whereabouts are we now? What is the situation some 4.5 months into the year as we lift the shutters for the first time in 2021. Well, as I say, great to be back, a lot of pent-up demand. And I think the key message that we've been putting out is, let's hope we're back for good this time. It does feel, with the vaccine rollouts and everything, that we are in a much better place and there's a lot more confidence around. There will be a bounce back. The question is how long? We've seen a bounce back every time we've reopened, back in the last summer, back at Christmas, but how long will it last? Are we looking at something that will last through the summer and then start to peter out in the autumn? Or is this going to be a continuation building into Q4, which I know, this Christmas should be a very good Christmas. Let's hope so. We have got a recruitment and an induction issue, and that's probably not surprising because, with retail staff who left at Christmas, many of them younger people may have taken on roles in other industries, or if some of the people whose countries of origin they may have returned to, things like that. There's certainly a recruitment and an induction issue around at the moment, and a need to bring more people back into the sector. So that's one that certainly we're very aware of, and we'll be working with government closely on to try and get more people back into the industry as the reopening continues. Paying rent is definitely a problem. It's been a problem for retailers back to the first lockdown in March and April of last year. Many retailers have been carrying debts into the start of this year. It's an ongoing issue. It's something I know the Minister is very aware of. We've talked about a solution in terms of mediation. And I know, again, the Minister's had a letter from us in the last week around some of those proposals and how we handle that. As the Minister said, we need some extended state supports required not only for the period between now and the end of June, clearly, but for the rest of this year. COVID hasn't gone away, and clearly, let's not mention the B word, Brexit. I know Minister talked about it there earlier, but Brexit is really an unknown at the moment, and in terms of when it came on board, we were all into the middle of COVID in January, and we really haven't really yet understood the full impact of the issues on supply chain and on cost as a result of Brexit. So I think that is one to come, and one that we have to work through. Just to give you a picture of what 2020 was like and these big peaks and troughs that we've gone through. Well, clearly, we started out the year last year quite strongly, but we saw a massive dip in terms of our members' sales in that March, April, May period last year when we first locked down around 45%. We bounced back strongly in the summer, but then we dropped again in November down to about, not as much because a number of businesses have pivoted online, but we certainly saw a dip in November, and then we bounced back again in December. And certainly the early indications are that this last lockdown is more akin to what we saw at the beginning part of last year. In other words, it's a 45–50% drop for many businesses during this January period, regardless of whether they pivoted online or not. There clearly have been winners and losers. If you're sitting there knowing somebody, or you indeed own a food store yourself, the likelihood is local food stores have performed pretty well. Food business has been strong throughout all of this, probably because the restaurants and hospitality has been closed through this period. But other areas that performed well, things like home appliances, IT, computer equipment, anything to do with us being at home and spending the money on the place that we live in, has done well. But equally, there has been a lot of losers. There's been a lot of retail businesses out there that have struggled dramatically during the course of the last 15 months. Clothing retail in particular, ladies wear, menswear, children's wear, all performed badly. Jewelry shops have performed badly. Gift stores and so on have performed badly. And obviously we need people, as the Minister said, we need people to shop locally now in order to get those businesses back up and running. And as has been said, online has really taken a dramatic shift upwards. We've been well supported in terms of the online retail grant, the 11 million that was through Enterprise Ireland that was put in place last year, and through the local enterprise vouchers that the Minister referenced. But the online stores have taken over the high street. If you take Boohoo, the UK fashion chain or fashion retailer, it was only founded 15 years ago, and it's now got a turnover of 1 billion a year. If you take ASOS, it was founded in 2000. It's now got a revenue of 3.2 billion. That was just their 2020 numbers. So, you know, all of these retailers have been buying up parts of the high street. So Boohoo, you know, bought up Debenhams, bought up Oasis, bought up Warehouse, ASOS bought up the Acadia Group, you know, Topshop, Topman. They didn't buy them up for their bricks and mortar, for their stores. They bought them up for their online presence only. So there is an awful lot of vacant property that is sitting around our towns, cities and shopping centres across the country that is now looking for new businesses to come in and take those over. Latest information we've got from one of our partners would suggest that there were 2,000 additional vacant premises at the end of 2020 compared to the end of 2019, which is a massive amount of vacant property that we're looking at now as we reopen that needs to be filled. So we need to work together. Government support will only go so far. Retailers absolutely need support with rent. What we have proposed to government is a mediation scheme with a mediator who has the legal authority to work with both landlords and tenants and set a rent for a period of time that enables both parties to generate some income and allows retailers to get back up on their feet. We need landlords and we need banks to show forbearance over this period. We need these further restart grants. We need collaboration from suppliers. We've got a lot of collaboration actually from suppliers who, you know, let's face it, they're the nudge back from the retail sector, but they've also suffered dramatically over the last few months. We need the continued support for online trading. You know, the minister said there, we've seen these online retail grants and so on come through, but we're certainly going to need more of that over the course of the next 2 or 3 years. And perhaps most importantly, we need to collaborate with education, and we need to get people back working and developing careers in retail. It is an area that's suffered. When you've got nearly 5 months of being out of a job, it's inevitable that people will have gone back into education, or they've gone and found a job in the tech industry or something like that. So we do need to create a career out of retailing again. We also need to bring life back into our town centres and our shopping centres. So we need a coordinated plan. We need retail and hospitality both working together. I mean, what's very evident when you walk around, even I'm sure it's the same in Wexford, but I was walking around Dublin on Monday, and life will not be the same until the pubs are open, until the restaurants are open, and until we get that buzz back into our city centres. So we need to work together on that. We need a change in the planning laws, and we need to encourage more people to come and live over the shop. It's highly unlikely that the stockroom space that exists above many of our shops across the country will be needed for retail in the future. You know, a lot of that space will not be needed, and we need to encourage people to come and live over the shop. We have a housing crisis that could be resolved to a degree by converting a lot of this space above shops into residential accommodation. We need to improve the public realm, and we need always on entertainment and experience. We need something that is going to attract customers to come into our towns, cities and shopping districts. And it's not just the shops, it's the entertainment and the experience, which needs to be safe and it needs to be family focused. There is a phygital revolution going on. So what do I mean by phygital? Well, you know, customers are living their lives online. We all do it. I'm sure you're all sitting at home in the evenings these days, partly with your one eye on the TV, another on the phone. So we're living our lives online. And what does phygital mean? Well, it means the mixture between physical shopping and e-commerce. And not that these things are competing, but they're working together. So we've already started to see these strategies emerging during the course of last year. You know, we weren't really talking click and collect a year ago. You know, we're now talking click and collect big time. You know, this buy online and collect in store. It was something that the government really honed in on when we reopened, not this week, but last week. We will see more and more people walking through stores with their phones, not necessarily buying those products in that store, but simply going online and buying them while they're in the store on their phone to get it delivered to their home when they get back, maybe a day later or something. We will be relying on social media to generate reviews and to generate followers into our stores. We'll be looking at things like location-based notification. We will be shopping our stores in the future, both in virtual reality or augmented reality. And then finally, we will be cashier-free shopping. You know, we do it in our supermarkets anyway, but if you look at things like the launch of Amazon Go, where there are no cashiers, no tills, you know, where simply your phone is scanned when you walk into a store, you make your purchases, your phone is scanned as you walk out, and the money is automatically taken out of your account that way. So those are things for the future. This phygital revolution is here to stay. And of course, it's all about the experience. If you look at Penny's Primark, you know, Penny's opened a 160,000 square foot store in Birmingham there about 4 or 5 years ago now, you know, which is the biggest fashion store in the world. It's got a beauty studio. It's got a barber shop. It's got 3 cafes and restaurants in there, one of which is a Disney themed restaurant. You know, it's enormous, and yet it's just a fashion store. So we're talking on the one hand about stores becoming smaller, and yet brands like Penny's Primark are coming in and doing these sorts of things in places like Birmingham. On the other hand, perhaps at the top end of it, we've got the experience of Brown Thomas. You know, people are not necessarily going to go into Brown Thomas to buy, but they're going to go in and browse, and they want this entertainment. So it is going to be all about the experience in the future, not just simply going into a bricks and mortar shop and picking something up, you know, from a clothing store or a food store or something. You're going to be looking for that experience more and more in the future. So are we in for the roaring 20s? Well, you know, who knows? The one thing that is very evident is that this change is going to continue. The next few years could be very innovative and very exciting. So we've seen this emergence of direct-to-consumer brands who inevitably will need to start developing their physical presence as well as their digital presence. So we won't just necessarily see these brands online, we'll also see them starting to develop physically. And those shops that they set up will be more like showrooms necessarily than actual shops where in the traditional sense of going in and buying something. Equally, those retail brands that exist will need to continue to develop their presence online. The future will be this phygital mix of online and digital. And then, you know, what we really need to encourage is new entrepreneurial ideas and pop-up shops. There is space available, and we need people to engage with those pop-up shops. So in summary, we need to rebuild trust with the consumer. We need to offer a supercharged service. You know, it has become much more around customer care over the last few years, as well as just customer service. And that customer care, how we make people feel, how we make them feel comfortable to shop in our shopping environments, that's going to be vitally important, certainly over the next few months as we get reopened. We need to help our towns and cities flourish. Our brands need to be online. As I say, the future is going to be very much phygital. The future is also going to be sustainable. It's going to be about sustainable shopping. The recycling of materials, this circular economy is going to be really important over the next few years. And it's all about the experience. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hand back to you now, Emma, but the basic message out there to everybody is it's great to be back and enjoy the buzz for the next few months.
Thank you, Duncan, for that very informative presentation. I'm sure it was certainly welcomed by all and gave some great pointers for the future. I am conscious of time, so we will now open it up for question and answers. We do have some questions already submitted, so I will begin with those. So first question to you, Minister, in relation to yesterday's announcement. We have a question around that. So the question is, why only now, after 4.5 months later, that there is only now support for those with a turnover of less than 50,000 and not before? I suppose there's 2 segments to that question, Minister. Why only 1,000 when you are now going to give another grant of 4,000 for the small businesses, giving them a total of 8,000 and the micro businesses only receiving 1,000?
Emma, 2 quick things. I suppose there's been ongoing work on the various supports. I mean, many benefit from the wage subsidy, the PUP payments, tax warehousing, the other restart grants as well. So we're constantly evolving and announcing new schemes as well. The issue with the turnover is kind of a figure that's been picked by the Department of Finance, trying to work out the cost base of companies. And I've engaged with other companies here and gone through their actual costs as well. And we're trying to reach those companies because no support here replaces all the lost sales, or turnover or profits. It's just trying to help with the costs. So the various schemes are reflective of your potential cost base. And we will be asking local authorities and the Leos to reflect on that with the applicants that come in. So it's set at €1,000 for the Leos, and there's 5 million set aside for that, 6 million. So we'll see what comes in on that, and we can watch that in relation to micro businesses. On the other one, then there are a number of companies there, I would say, which are based at home or based out in the backyard or the shed. They've come forward and shown us their cost base, where there's ongoing fixed costs over the last year of potentially 100 or 200 or a little around that every week for the last year as well. So that was the attempt to try to find some grant to replace some of that money as well. But I'm conscious that there's still difficulties there for companies, and we're constantly looking at this. And bear in mind, this is just an announcement from this week, the National Economic Recovery Plan, which will confirm supports on an ongoing capacity and dealing with issues like that Duncan has raised there around rents and legacy debts from tax and redundancies and so on. That will be confirmed and dealt with in the recovery plan coming late May. But I'm happy to engage with companies that have other issues there, but we're trying to reach out. And again, any company, no matter who you are, because I'm buying, some people would have had the wage subsidy, which is the most important initiative I think we've had over the last year as well. You did also ask some of your questions about reopening grants, because the restart grants were very successful there on a number of occasions last year. As most people know, following the budget in October, the restart grant process was replaced with the CRIS payments, which with the CRSS, which reflect our turnover businesses as well. They kicked in after the budget last October, and they dealt with that lockdown during December, January, February. And our Minister Duncan confirmed 2 weeks ago that the CRIS, there'll be a 2-week extra payment. As you reopen, you can still claim CRIS for 2 more weeks. And that in itself is a small restart or a boost grant as well.
That's great, thank you. And then a second question I have there, Minister. What are government's long-term strategy for SMEs with all the changes that has happened?
Yeah, and I probably touched on some of them earlier on, but the main focus would be to implement the task force actions, which is about 40 various actions. A big focus will be around the talent agenda, the access to finance, and that's why last week we brought through another scheme last week, which is around the Brexit loan guarantee scheme, and that will be in place in June. So that's to assist companies up to a number of 500, anyone from 1 to 500 will be in trading with the UK in any shape or form, which you can show that 15% of your trade, either export or importing, is linked to the UK. And that's for companies in all the SMEs online here today, as well as the agricultural community and the food producing community as well. That gives you access to long-term loans over 6 years, from 25,000 up to 1.5 million, at a percentage rate that will come in a lot less than the existing rates. The average for most of the guarantee products are around 3% as well. That's just to assist people with their strategies over the next couple of years. I recognise the SME community in Ireland traditionally don't borrow too much, and certainly since the financial crisis, we're very much as a state not borrowing. But I would urge companies to look at their plans for this year and next year and put in place the option to borrow, because these guarantees won't be there forever. They're there for this year under the COVID guarantee, and on the Brexit one, they're there for the next 18 months. That gives you access where the banks should be in a position to judge you differently, because they're guaranteed up to 80%, but also they will be making available cheaper products and long-term products as well. So that's one thing. But the SME agenda, the task force will go through their actions one by one on that and work through them, around about digitalization, the greening agenda, the going absolutely trading online. But a big part then certainly for the retail sector, and Duncan's touched on it, is development of our high street potential. And we all know that there's a lot of underutilized space on our streets or our towns and villages, be it over the shop, under the shop, or around the shop. There's a lot of space not being utilized, and that makes our towns and villages it's not attractive to invest in or to come and spend time in. So we want to deal with that through the programme of government, which is Town Centre First principle. There was a cross-departmental group working on a framework that will shape that. That'll probably be published in June, at the latest in July, setting out our agenda to deal with this. And there will be various initiatives and supports and funds to drive that activity, but working mainly with the business community, Chamber of Commerce and local authorities to make things happen, to make an impact. We've seen a number of schemes over the last number of years that do bring some good news to towns, but we want a more coordinated plan that will achieve a long-term impact. And it will mean putting in place town plans with town teams and getting in behind them for a number of years as well to support the businesses there. But the big thing then will be the recovery plan, which will be published in 2 weeks, which will deal with the ongoing supports around wage subsidies, grants, initiatives around taking on staff who are taking staff back off pub, taking staff in social welfare, I would encourage all the businesses here to have a look at the new Pathways to Work document that will be published by the Department of Social Protection later this month, and that will deal with a range of supports for businesses to help you take on new staff and to take staff off social protection. And there's some very good subsidies there that will assist businesses to take in new staff, because there is a cost taking on new staff who are not trained to suit your needs, and we recognise that, and those supports will be there as well.
Thank you, Minister. And I think just previously, I noticed that you had mentioned the government are very much aware that the Southeast is very much an employment black spot. In relation to the TUSEI, it's certainly an important economic factor for the future of County Wexford and the Southeast. But what kind of financial commitment is there so that we can enjoy, I suppose, the same commitment as other regions?
But again, each of those agreements have been reached with a backing of finance and recognition that coming together to form a technical university will assist and will help draw down funding. I was part of the science strategy before this department, and we recognise the importance of investing in education in our IT, so technical universities and university system as well. It's important that they come together and work together, which they have, and that in itself will help create jobs, attract jobs, but develop the offering of existing companies through research and development and innovation as well. Well placed to do that from a previous hat as well. But the one thing that's been rolled out now, as we're familiar with, is the regional enterprise plans. And they'll be the new 3-year version of them will be launched hopefully in the autumn. And there'll be an opportunity for any business in Wexford, and certainly ourselves as the Chamber of Commerce, to get involved in those regional enterprise plans, to bring forward local suggestions, local initiatives, local actions that we can then make sure they're encompassing the regional plan and make sure that they are delivered. Myself and Robert Fry will be chairing all those groups, the various 9, and it's important that they are implemented as quickly as they possibly can to draw down the various funding. In relation to funding for the different schemes, be it urban regeneration, be it for town centre development, be it the digitalisation agenda, the greening agenda, there's over the next couple of months and since February, there's a review of the capital investment plan, which, as you would have heard a couple of years ago, we launched Project 2040, which sets out the planning framework and then the investment framework for this country out to 2040. But thankfully, we're in a position now as a country, because of the public finances, that they're in good order despite COVID, that there will be a capital spend of at least 10 billion every year to support all these initiatives in urban regeneration, rural regeneration, and so on, and to invest in our businesses. So that money will be there. Now, if you compare that to where we would have been 10 years ago coming out of the financial crisis, there wasn't even $1 billion to spend. So there was quite a lot of capital money, taxpayer money, that will be invested in all our towns and our counties to be able to drive them on, drive activity. And we recognise that you will see a lot of people choosing to come back and live in Wexford and revitalise many parts of our counties as well. But that will put a demand on for additional services as well to match that. And I think we're in a place to do that. But it goes back to having those town teams, county teams to drive this agenda and win and draw down supports as well. But I think Duncan's presentation shows where the opportunity is for retail. But it means being prepared for it and to invest in it, and businesses putting in place those long-term strategies that will be supported and assisted by government. But there's no point in me claiming taxpayers can fund all this. They can't. It's in conjunction with the business and the business community to make it a little bit easier and to change some of the rules along the way and to assist, be it assisting in grants, subsidies, mentoring, low-cost finance, and ongoing engagement through our business agencies as well.
Thanks, Minister.
That's great. Thank you, Minister. Sorry, you want to come in there, Willie?
Just, I think for the last 10 minutes, we give it to the floor, and I'd ask, obviously, to be questions. I'd ask Minister and Duncan to be as brief as possible, because I do know there are a lot of people here who have a lot of contributions and questions. So if we could open it to the floor. While people are getting their question together, their contribution, Minister, I just like to say I see the hand going up. Okay, we take you, Edmund.
Yeah, Edmund Connolly, manager of the Southeast Regional Skills Forum. Just to remind participants that there's actually quite a bit of support available for SMEs and local retailers to upskill and retrain their staff. And locally in Wexford, you're talking about, in addition to Wexford Chamber SkillNet, you also have Waterford Wexford ETB, who have a range. They can respond to your needs. If you just search fetchcourses.ie, you'll see they currently have 3 or 4 programs for the retail sector, highly subsidized, very flexible and locally delivered. A lot of it is online, but in time they'll be back out in their training centres and so forth. But I would encourage people to engage with their local ETB and obviously Wexford Chamber Skillnet.
Anyone else? Minister, just one item. The labour market is very tight at the moment, and tradespeople. And one thing I've come up against or been said is a lot of people, obviously business have to restructure now, but redundancy payments are crippling. So I would see some businesses at least who probably could, they have moved some of their business online, and they have long-term staff that, and I think they're holding on to them because they simply can't fund the redundancy payments. And I wonder, would you look at maybe the reinstating some form of a redundancy rebate, because we're locking up people that can contribute, I suppose, more productive in other businesses. We allow them to be more flexible to move on. If you have someone maybe 15, and I suppose the nature of business nowadays is not like years ago you built a business and you was there in 20, 40 years time. Business seems to be more fluid now because obviously the market and trade is more fluid. So it's something I just suggest to you, maybe the members there. So does anyone else want to come in there?
Yeah, Willie, on that one, it's something we're working on at the moment in the department. I'm mainly based in the Department of Enterprise, but I work with Head of Humphreys and Social Protection as well. And as you know, Section 12A is in place at the moment, which prevents, we say, the employees triggering a redundancy situation. Some companies have had to go there already, but we recognise that there's many businesses that could become unviable if redundancy was triggered and had to pay out on that. So we will be coming with some initiatives around that, trying to assist with that, to give businesses the time to restructure and recover and survive, and not have to pay out a number of redundancies and then have to close the business as a result of that, costing us all the jobs. So you will see some announcements in that space. It's something we're very much worked on, so you're on the ball there. And a shout out to Edmund. Bang on, it's important that over the last number of years, and more so now, our education system has become much more enterprise facing, and that regional skills forum is where that connection can happen. And I would urge, and I referenced it in my open speech, the need for the upskilling agenda and for the ongoing development of skills and talent, certainly in the retail sector and all the cases as well. So it's the link with the ETBs, our ITs, our further education and training, the opportunity to learn as you earn through apprenticeship programs and many other initiatives as well. That's the space we're in, but that can only work and it can only be successful if businesses buy into that and avail of the opportunities as well and support the education system to do likewise and feedback on the kind of courses you need. And Wexford ETB have been very responsive. Some of the, certainly my previous role in the Department of Housing and Planning, very responsive in terms of adapting courses to suit what the needs are of the sector too. So likewise, as Esmond's touched on, they can do the same for retail and are doing it through skill nets and other ways as well.
Thanks. I don't see anyone indicating there. Just a couple of things on the online trading. The Chamber on the website we have a facility, and the main reason for it is if you list your business or whatever, and if somebody come onto the Chamber website, they won't find Amazon or they won't be directed to some of the big internationals. They'll be directed to our members only. So, and it's something we're promoting very much for people to come onto the County Wexford Chamber website to do their shopping, and you're guaranteed you'll be buying local. And we obviously can compete. There's no problem competing, but we don't have the excuse me, we don't have the millions to develop fantastic websites that most when you go online, you know where you're going to go because they're going to someone direct you to their website, like Amazon and those people. And I meant to mention earlier, just wanted to wish everybody great success in reopening. And I suppose in the conversation today, you might mistake that it's all retail. It's not. The Chamber is not about all retail, it's about every business. As I said at the opening, we want to, our motto is make Wexford a better place to do business, and that's our aim. I'll hand it back to you, Emma, and sorry for jumping in here.
No problem, Willie. I think that concludes the session, unless anybody else wants to come in there before we wrap it up.
Marie Lane is indicating there, Emma.
Yeah. Hi, Marie Ling here from IB. I just want to ask this to the Minister. Can you hear me there?
We can hear you, Maria.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. With the demise of, the retail over the last year or two, it has been very difficult for chambers generally to be funded from their members, etc. Is there any help going to come centrally? If you're going to use chambers a lot going forward, is there any help available centrally to support chambers until their members get back up and running?
Thanks, Mario. You're the first chamber to ask me directly that, so I'm not aware of any program we have at the moment. I know there's various initiatives been launched by the different departments to try to deal with that community groups with ongoing costs. I know Heather Humphreys launched one there 10 days ago. Might be worth taking a look at that to see if there's any assistance you can get on that. But it's certainly something I'll take up with your Chambers of Ireland Association as well and see if there's anything we need to do, because we do want to work with chamber conferences and you do great work. So we can take a look at that. Again, there's a mixture there. Some chambers don't have as strong a presence as Wexford have and wouldn't have the same costs. Others do. So it's something I can certainly take a look at as well. But again, to recognise the work of chambers and to say to yourself and Willie and Emma there, happy to engage. If there's other questions that come in after this, send them into us here and we'll certainly process them and we'll engage back with you as well with our ongoing work. And I'm conscious some of our politicians would like to see us regularly down in Wexford, so we'll do that too, because Paul Keogh was on to me, he couldn't make the meeting as well, to make sure we can get down. So definitely happy to do that with you more regularly and see if there's initiatives and suggestions you would have. But I would ask you to engage with the regional plans, with the local authorities too, to bring forward initiatives to us that will have an impact in your town that we can try to direct funding to as well.
Thank you, Minister. And also perhaps maybe in relation to our chamber vouchers as well, that the extension of the small benefits exemption to allow employers to give a voucher perhaps in 2021 to the value of $1,000, which could be drawn down in two parts on a tax-free basis. Perhaps that could also be looked at.
I'll take that up. I mean, that's worked quite well in the past, I know, but a lot of companies do avail of it. But certainly on that one, it would be very important to formally write to Pascal Donoghue and Michael McGrath, because when the budget submissions and conversations have started now, and that's something that we can put on the table. I certainly do it from our side here as the Department of Enterprise, but certainly as a chamber, that's something you could take a lead on as well, and to make sure you communicate directly with them with that, and again show the benefits of it, because we will be looking at a range of initiatives to try to support that local, shop local, and all the other businesses as well. There has been the staycation voucher came at the wrong time, needs to be redesigned anyway, so you will hear announcements on that. But a lot of chambers now have developed a very good voucher scheme that will drive business local. So it's important to reflect that when you're on it, though, is allowed for the tax system, and it will be possible to extend it if you win the support of the minister. I'll add my weight to it, but I think as a chamber, you should definitely correspond directly as well.
Great, thank you, Minister. I think that concludes our session as we're coming close to 1 o'clock. And thank you all for joining today. And a huge thank you to the Minister and Duncan Graham on behalf of County Wexford Chamber and our members for your time today. Your answers and presentations were greatly appreciated by all in attendance. I think we got around to everyone in that short period of time. And thank you once again to you both for giving so much of your time today and listening to everyone. We look forward to speaking with you again soon.